You're watching Analysts After Dark, an underground hideaway where insatiably curious analysts examine provocative project problems, share salacious secrets, and establish a covert network of co-conspirators. Step into the dark with your hosts, AJ Hawley and Steve Jones.
Well, hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Had a good day. How are you doing?
Doing well. What's new?
Project fun. A little stress, stuff happens and find a way to get through it.
Very nice. A little stressed out?
At times, yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. Sometimes you just need a break.
Understood. Well, luckily, hopefully our guest today will be able to help that. I saw Phil speak in Orlando. Actually, I missed him in Boston. I saw him in Orlando, and I got to participate in part of the session. So I earned myself 2 little fried chickens. Right? Right? Fantastic. I took them and I put them in my laptop bag, and I forgot about them. And I am going through TSA weeks later, not months, weeks later. And I go through and I set my bag down on the laptop conveyor belt thing, and I hear "Bok, bok, bok." I was like, what is that? And I didn't know what it was. And then I opened up my bag later on after I went through security, and I realized it was these. And then I just pull them out like I'm a normal clown or something. I'm not sure really what it was. And I was like, stupid Phil's chickens. But that's okay. Well, let's go ahead and introduce Phil. What do you think?
That's a great idea.
All right. So Phil Barth is our guest today. He has been speaking publicly since 2001. Audiences have listened to Phil, laughed with Phil, and been inspired by Phil since 2010. He is a frequent guest on podcasts like this show, where he discusses goal achievement and stress management, which I will bet he will do today. And for his 15 minutes of fame, Phil won $32,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in 2002. Phil, his wife Beth, his 3 sons, 2 dogs, all live in the Cincinnati area. So without further ado, hey Phil.
Thanks for having me. How you doing, AJ?
On the show. Appreciate it.
So you actually won money on the game versus everybody that at home that says, I got them all right.
I have both of those experiences. But I got enough right to get $32,000. Yes.
Nice. So what's the question that tripped you up?
You got to attend this keynote to find out.
Attend my keynote, and it will be covered.
Perfect.
In detail. In what for me is painful detail. Bringing back, you're ripping off the old Band-Aid time after time after time. But I don't want to stress myself out.
I'm good at ripping the Band-Aid off, though. So I'll have to catch it in Boston, right?
Right.
Looking forward to that.
I am too.
If you haven't seen the show before, we do ask one question. So, and it kind of applies to it links to our brother show, Analysts After Work.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what is your favorite after dark activity? So we asked you that before the show, and then you said, watching a sitcom with my family while sipping on homemade wine or Jefferson's Ocean bourbon, depending on the mood.
Right.
That's the nicest thing I've ever heard. I swear, you and then Coach Vic, just like your family should just get together, sit down and watch TV together.
I think maybe we should.
Yeah. Well, in honor of that, I decided to bring some of my own. So, Jefferson's Oceans.
Nice.
There you go.
Very nice.
Just as a welcoming gesture. I mean, you can't have any, but it's still it's there. It's in the experience.
I am mere feet away from the wine rack that has both homemade wine, and I don't make it. My in-laws do. They're very good at it. And
that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
So did they make it in the Cincinnati area?
Yeah. So here's what happens. I pick in June, we have black raspberries that grow on our property. So I pick them in July. Right now, we have blackberries that grow all around. We live in properties surrounded by woods.
Okay.
And so I go out and pick them, and my father-in-law does. And then they make, among other wines that they make black raspberry wine and blackberry wine, which are their two best. And since I do the picking, they do all the wine work, and then we split the bottles that we make.
That sounds like a wonderful deal.
It's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a buddy of mine in that area that made blueberry wine, and he also made mead. And I had never had mead before he gave it to me. I think it was a blueberry mead even. And I had it. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then I just kind of like fell into my couch and I didn't move for a while. And I was like, what is going on? I only had one of these. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's my in-laws wine. It would make great sleeping medicine. Ask me how I know. You already know how I know.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about stress, and let's talk about you. So how did you get on this topic, and what started you down this path?
2015, I had what the doctor called as a small heart attack. And I thought, if this is small, medium would just probably be the end of me. It should be like Starbucks, right? Where the heart attacks are tall or venti or grande or kill you or whatever. A small heart attack in the recovery was no fun whatsoever. But after they put the stents in, I had a meeting with my doctor, and I thought, I'm going to hear the usual: watch your diet, exercise more, all these things I'm doing. And he didn't say any of that. He said, you need to manage your stress. He said, You need to promise me that you're going to, as much as possible, take 1 week out of every 3 months and unplug from all the stress from your job, whatever. And he said it in front of my wife, so I had to do it.
It's weird how they make you accountable, isn't it?
Exactly.
Great enforcer.
So the first unplug was obviously at the end of the next quarter, because I waited all the way till the end. Last week of March, my wife said, all right, you're going to unplug for a week. And you aren't ready to travel yet, but we're going to do things just around the greater Cincinnati area. So we went to the zoo the first day, took a picnic lunch. And at the end of the day, I got on social media and I said, here are the great things that happened today. And I got all kinds of likes. And if you get likes on social media, that's just, it's addictive. So the next day I did it again. We went to the art museum and I listed the things and everybody liked it. And I started enjoying finding the things. And so I said, I wonder how long I could keep finding great things that happened during the day. And it's been closing in on 8 years that I've been doing this now.
Did anybody call you out for posting not actually being considered unplugging?
No. I said, and I made the deal with my wife, I will unplug from work. I will not unplug from things that are fun. And we'll get more into what parts of social media you need to unplug from, because there is stress out there. But that's what got it started, was just listing what was good in life. And I talk about, and I'm sure you're going to ask me about this later, the 9 S's of stress management. That was the first one, was seeking what's good, because you train your brain. Whatever you train your brain to look for, it's going to find. And so the more I looked for what was good in the world, the more I found it and the easier it became to find it, and just stuff started appearing.
I think it there was a session on that when we talked, so Paul Crosby did that in Orlando. He did a session on bias and being able to see. So if you buy a white Toyota, you see it everywhere now, every single time that you go out on the street, etc. And that was one of the biases that he had mentioned in his session. But yeah, so that's what you're saying. So because you are constantly looking for great things or positive things, you find that you see those more often?
Yes. Yeah. They present themselves in the back of your mind. I think you've trained yourself to find them.
Sure.
And does that work with optimism too?
Yeah, I'm a fairly optimistic person. I wasn't always. I still embrace sarcasm. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I optimistically embrace sarcasm. Yeah, I mean, you've got people that if you gave them two $10 bills, they'd complain that you didn't give them a 20, right?
Right.
I look for what's good. And it wasn't always this way. And it's not all unicorns and rainbows and all that kind of stuff. But it did improve my outlook and it lowered my stress. And the way I look at it is, in any given month, 3 days are going to be so bad that you're not going to get them. They're going to suck no matter what. And 3 days are going to be so good that no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to screw them up. That leaves maybe 24 days in the middle that if you have the right attitude and you approach it the right way, you're going to win more of those days. And that's going to lower your stress.
Well,
Win the day.
you turned all of those social media posts into a book, right?
Correct. That's what happened. Great things happen every day. Pausing for 1 second to get my.
Oh, I got one right here for you.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Steve, where's your copy? Come on.
Hey, okay.
I didn't see the session yet.
That's my son on the beach in South Carolina. My wife took that picture years ago, and we were sitting there kind of after I'd written the book, after I'd put everything together, figuring out the cover, and we were in a coffee shop, and I was on a cocktail napkin. I said, something like this, something like that. And she goes, "You're basically drawing a stick figure of the picture I took of Tom on vacation." So edited it up a little bit, put it on the cover, and that was it.
A very important question. Does she get royalties then on being the photographer for your cover?
She gets half of everything I make.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Period.
Just half.
We are a team. So yeah. Actually, I guess she does, AJ, because we jointly own the speaking business.
Okay. Well, I actually read, and I'm not going to say that I read the whole thing yet. So I just got it last week, and I'm like, I'm gonna bear down and get it done. I did. I got about halfway through, and I actually lived in Cincinnati for a long time, so it was nice to look through the things that you had acknowledged and be like, oh yeah, I missed that spot. Oh yeah, that was kind of a fun place. And then being able to look back, and so I felt very connected to this myself, just looking through the content that was there. And I got to the point where you were talking about the speech contest, and you had said that your speech coach was the speech coach for Anthony Munoz, right?
Yes.
And that triggered a memory that I had buried for a long time. I was actually at an event. I did valet for like 6 months, I think, when I was in college. And it was just one of those kind of part-time gigs. And if they needed you, they would call you. If they didn't, then, no big deal. And you'd show up and you do that. Well, this was for an event that he was hosting, or he was going to be at. I believe he was hosting it. And he was in business with a partner of his, and they had a furniture store. I forget the name of the furniture store. Do you recall?
Furniture Fair. Furniture Fair.
And so him and Anthony was 6'5", massive, just like he was a wall of a man. And then the other guy was not. He was kind of shorter and smaller, whatever. Well, guess whose car I got to park? It was the other guy, right? It wasn't Anthony. And so I'm taller myself, but like I got into his car, and one of the rules were like you weren't supposed to move the seats around, whatever, because that when they got in. And so I'm there with my knees in the steering wheel, trying to like move this car up and pick everybody up, because he had given me his keys. And then as I do, apparently I got nervous and didn't put it into park. So then they're walking in front of the car, and then as they do it, like the car lurches forward, everyone screams, everybody. And I fixed it, put it in park, etc. I did get tipped, but I also got a couple looks from people, and I believe, if I recall correctly, that was my last night of outlay.
At least it was an automatic, right?
It wasn't automatic, correct.
Okay.
But it was a big SUV. There.
With the seat very close to the steering wheel.
The seat, I was very close. So Way to be, Amy. Way to be late. Show starts at 8 this time. Actually on time. So last time I understand, but this time it was on time. So you missed us. So talking about stress, I was very stressed out that day, for sure, because I was. Well, I must know a few people.
Well, and one of the things I point out in the keynote is a lot of times stress or tragedy plus time equals comedy, which is exactly what you described right there. We were in Charleston a few years ago, and on the drive down, my youngest son had sugarless chewing gum, which if you eat enough of it will cause constipation. And,
that'll stress you out.
And we didn't find this out until he got all the way down. He'd eaten the entire giant pack.
Yeah.
And so this went on, a couple of days, and he's having no luck whatsoever. We tried different things, and my wife finally said, "You need to get an enema for him." Right. So I go out to the store with the two older sons, and we're at a local grocery store, and I can't find it. So I go up to the cashier and I say, "Do you guys carry enemas?" And she looks across the store. Somebody's maybe 30 feet away, another worker. "Hey, Bob, do we have enemas?" I kid you not. Or if I had an enema, I crap you not. Bob looked at her, looked back and goes, "What's an enema?"
Nice.
I am out of here. And so at the time I was steamed. I mean, we went back, we got him at Target, went back home and a little bit of Jefferson's Ocean. And I felt I saw the But sometimes it takes longer sometimes, but tragedy plus time equals comedy, and that lowers your stress.
Well, speaking of comedy in that scenario, if you look at the sugarless Haribo gummy bears, look at the review of those on Amazon. It's just page after page of hilarity. So I would encourage you strongly to do that.
Absolutely.
And they have the big 8-pound one or whatever, or 10-pound one that they have, like the massive one. That also has just some comedy gold.
And
a few
you can
nuggets,
spend hours.
if you will.
A few small nuggets.
Yeah.
A lot of times
what kind of show this is.
You can sit there for hours just waiting and enjoying.
Your
legs go numb.
Yeah. So the first tip was
seek the green.
Observation. Look
good.
For stress.
Look for the good. Yes.
Look for the good.
Yes.
What's the second tip?
Second tip: subtract the bad. So it's the flip side of it, and this is where we get into things like social media. And I know a lot of people don't do social media, don't do Facebook, whatever, and that's fine. I don't want to completely leave Facebook because, for example, my niece lives in Florida. So this is how I get to see a picture of her and her husband and kids. Get to see fun stuff like that. The downside of it is there are some people who like to fight at the drop of a hat on social media. And so I talk about, you wouldn't invite that person to lunch. Right? They're the most negative person in the world. Hey, let's invite them lunch. So why are you inviting them into your life? Because the thing about social media is they give you what you're looking for. So if you spend time, you don't even have to argue. If you spend time reading the arguments, Facebook is going to give you more and more and more. And it's by association, it's going to drag you down. So I block people, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. You can block people on Facebook and they don't know they're blocked. And if you could do that in real life, that would be the best thing ever. Just saying, "Oh, this sucks." You just boom, you block them, they go away, and they don't even know you blocked them.
So just you can just block anybody you want to, and then now it doesn't even matter. You just block them, and then that's it. Huh? What a cool thing.
But they do tend to notice after time.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. So
that's you subtract the red. And the other thing I say is, if we take all the bad, and I color code them, by the way, green is good, red is bad because they kind of sound and look like. I like the color red. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
so you're not colorblind. That's good.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So you need to seek the gray and subtract the gray, Steve.
Gray.
Sorry.
It was.
Sorry, I'm just being.
All right.
All right. At any rate, I say subtract. You cannot eliminate what's bad in your life. You can't. And sometimes they're bad events. And so I say when you can't subtract anymore, you have to add, which is ADD, which stands for acknowledge, don't dwell. So don't let it dwell. Acknowledge, don't dwell. Acknowledge what's bad. Acknowledge what's wrong. What can you do about it? That's another thing. I'm really big on what can I do about this bad situation? And if the answer is nothing, then I probably need to spend my time elsewhere. Yep. Set it aside. A little bit of stoicism for you there.
I like it. You know, I will say I haven't been on Facebook in a long time. And one of my favorite things to do was to defriend people. It was beyond blocking them. It was just to be like this person and then just, and there was like a social weight that was lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I'm callous or I don't care about people. It's that we never would have contacted each other or never would have connected otherwise. And
Right.
Yes, you know, just because we happen to be in the same proximity for a little while, it doesn't mean that we're going to hang out, etc. You know, but I do find that LinkedIn is a little bit easier to like connect with folks, just because in that case, it's about professionalism, right? So you get a chance to network, etc. And I find that those negative comments tend to be somewhat curtailed in LinkedIn than they do in Facebook and other platforms.
I agree. But on Facebook, you get to see Amy's cute dog.
Teddy.
As I
Amy
like to call
texts me
her
pictures
dog.
of her cute dog all of the time.
True, but I get to see him on Facebook.
So there's
As I
that.
like to call her or him Meg.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually think I got a video today. I did at 5:00 today. I got a video of a little doggy.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And see, the more time I spend looking at pictures of Amy's cute dog, the more pictures of cute dogs I get on Facebook.
That's just a win-win right there.
My stress just through the floor.
Yeah.
Defriending is satisfying, but I think there's a much more visceral satisfaction from hanging up the phone, the old school phone,
where it makes the clang sound afterwards.
Yeah.
If you hit it hard enough, yeah.
Exactly.
Amy says we don't get to see Teddy on LinkedIn.
We can fix that for her. I've got plenty of pictures I can show. Hey, here's Amy's dog. I could probably upload one right now as we speak.
I probably put a picture of two of my dog in the sense that sometimes they come down here to work with me.
Yeah. Mine will casually just stroll in and then kind of poke his nose at my leg like, hey, let's do something. What are you doing? Why do you keep sitting here?
And honestly, I think that's made us more, that's the upside of the pandemic, is we've become more human, and we don't need to worry about what our background looks like, or, you know, does the sun make us look like we've got the world's biggest cow lick or whatever. This isn't the nightly news where everything's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
We are actually sharing life. And so if a dog comes in the background, if a cat walks across, it's all good.
Yeah.
I used to have regular meetings with my team 3 times a week when we were all forced to be home. And one of the things I said was Mondays and Fridays we're on camera, and I encourage pets, family, whoever to stop in and wave and say hi, because life happens.
Absolutely.
You got to accept it, and an opportunity to embrace it.
Yep.
And it's always fun too to see somebody's kid pop in, and then if they have a Zoom background on, like just a disembodied head float in, and they can't see the whole body yet, so you just kind of see this little head float.
I do love that.
So Phil, you talk about stress management, but you also talk about fried chicken. And as a man that has 2 heart stents, I'm curious how much fried chicken you actually talk about. And
how much do I talk about? Oh,
how much you talk about it, and then also, what's up with that?
Well, because nobody. So let's talk about why I talk about fried chicken. Then we can talk about the diet later. I liken the fears inside of you, your fears, your negativity, self-doubt, the things that are holding you back. I like to call them little chickens.
Okay,
you're a chicken, and so when you put them in that context, then what you want to do is get them out Get these little rubber chickens out, fry them, get rid of them, overcome them. And the keynote talks about ways to do that. And so, and it's fun because I get to play with rubber chickens and they're a write-off, right? So like my pirate rubber chicken.
Yeah.
I only use this one for the presentations where it's rated R. Okay.
Wow. Is it rated R? Because that is a chicken with a happy trail. I haven't seen.
It's not X.
I'm just saying, it has a happy trail. Pull it back up.
No, I know what you're talking about. He's a pack. Oh, shit.
Yep. See, called it.
Toss that chicken.
By the way, AJ, from now on when you fly, I want you to check your chicken.
Yeah.
So you don't get caught by TSA.
Well, they didn't catch it, so this is TSA approved. Just so you know.
I'm guessing this one is not.
I don't know. But
I'm actually going to use this to get us back on track. Theoretically. Because I talk about, you got to fear the right chicken. This is the red rooster of regret, and it's really scary.
It's a rage chicken.
It's a rage chicken. This is the one you got to be afraid of. And this is what I call the red rooster of regret. So if you're letting these little chickens hold you back from achieving what you were meant to achieve, you're going to have bigger regrets at the end. So this is the chicken to be afraid of. And he's that can go on for 30 seconds.
Oh, lovely.
Steve, I hate to spoil the surprise of what you're going to experience for 30 seconds in Boston, but
nice.
It's that's kind of it's fun, right? Rubber chickens are fun, and that's why I use them. You don't want to take yourself too seriously, getting back to stress management. And as much as you can, those fears inside of you, get rid of them. Don't take them seriously and achieve the things you were meant to achieve.
And what about adult diapers?
Depends.
Well done.
Adult diapers are central to a story I tell on project management. How well do you know your customer, right? As a BA, how well do you know your customer? And what happened was I was working on projects for the pulp business at International Paper, and somebody said, well, I heard a consultant told me that if you haven't worn an adult diaper, you really don't know the experience and you really don't know the end customer. We make the pulp that goes to the end customer. And the director of marketing said, well, don't we have samples here? And he handed us each one as homework. That's the Reader's Digest version. So I had
like a phenomenal story.
It again, tragedy plus time equals comedy. And I didn't have to use it. I had to wear it. That was the other.
Understood. Okay.
There's a difference.
That makes the story a little bit better.
Yeah.
A little cleaner.
Because if he said you had to wear it for 24 hours, I'd been chewing sugarless gum.
There you go. Problem solved. All right. Well, I think if I recall correctly, we have a few confessions for the day. So let's take a look and see what we got going on.
And now it's time for BA Confessions.
All right. So the first one that we have is from M-Chick from a Wayback Time Machine. And M-Chick says that they had a weekly status meeting with the boss and we all reported on our projects. When she walked into the office on those mornings, one of us would send a chat message to the others, letting us know what mood she was in. That affected how helpful or not she was going to be. And we changed our reporting accordingly. So then asking, did she ever find out? So she never found out. She was one of the main reasons why I quit the company. It felt good handing in my resignation letter and answering, going to a top consulting firm, which she wasn't expecting. I think it's a good confession.
It's nice.
Yeah. So you ever worked with any of those like stressful people where they come in and they just dump it and it just exudes off their body?
Yes. Yes.
They walk in and you can feel the vibe of the room change. It was
Yeah,
happy
they're
and jokey
like,
and happy like this, and then all of a sudden it was a cloud came in.
yeah, like the Dementors from Harry Potter.
Exactly.
They walk into a room and suck out all the energy.
Yeah.
Try to bring
What did you
sunshine
think?
in.
What was that,
Yeah.
Steve?
I try to walk in and bring the sunshine with me.
That's true.
I think you do. You're a positive person.
And speaking literally, he actually sings that song, Walking on Sunshine, and he brings that with him wherever he goes, where it's like an earworm and it just sits in your brain.
Nice.
Yeah,
Katrina and the Wave.
he does.
I come dancing into meetings like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Singing that song.
Yeah. It's a literal earworm where I'm just like, oh, yeah. And then it's like, Steve, damn it. You know, I actually have one myself, a confession. And this was, I remember this a few years ago. I was working on a project and it was a big international project. We were in a room and we had these big meetings. And because it was international, you had time zone issues, et cetera. So they blocked big windows of time starting early in the morning until, mid afternoon. And so I was in there working on with a team of mine. And there were 4 of us and we were, 3 of us were BAs. One of us was a project manager. And we had 20 or so other BAs on the team because it was a big project. Everybody had their own area. And we had about 3 of these. And at the end of these, we had people come up to us and be like, hey, so can we get your notes? And I was like, there's 20 of us in here. What do you mean? Can we get the notes? Where are your notes? Oh, I saw you taking notes. So I thought we were good. And then the third time I was a little frustrated and maybe had a Jefferson Ocean or 2. I wrote an email saying, hey, we're going to have a new structure for this. And I sent it out to the team and to management. And it was very snarky. I can be a little snarky, but it was sappy. It was that, there's that much snark on it. And at the end of it, I was like taking notes and I did the Oprah meme where you take notes and so on. And, it was supposed to be kind of fun and snarky and everyone can laugh at it and then roll their eyes. But the manager, like within a minute, sent me 2 emails. One, he goes, how much have you had to drink, to send that out to everybody? Because it was later at night and I want to go back to my hotel. And the other one was to everybody else going, you know what? I approve.
Nice.
We had the PM on that. She was in the back, like she was even taking notes. And we call her Hammer Hands Annie just because she was there and she types so loudly on her keyboard that one of the stakeholders goes, do you hate that keyboard? Is that what was happening? And it's like, you're typing so loud. Do you hate it? And so we still call her Hammer Hands Annie. It's good. So that was my confession that, we were able to turn around a little bit. It did get a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie in that room because everyone's like, well, who's he to tell us? At the same time, the manager goes, yeah, we should all be paying attention and taking notes. So,
Yep.
it did end up getting the result. I just didn't make a whole lot of friends in that process.
It is what it is.
It was cathartic for me talking about stress management. We were able to solve the problem. I got to release a little bit of that pent up. I think that's what happens. I turn stress into sarcasm and not angst necessarily, but at least sarcasm.
Snark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
And it's a different catalyst for everybody. Scotch, whiskey, bourbon.
Can we make that like Phil's 10th item? If you can't do anything good with the stress, just turn it into sarcasm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the 12th, we'll come up with an 11th, and then the 12th step will involve alcohol. because
Yeah.
like every good 12. Okay, that joke that's not a whole lot funnier in my head.
It's weird
Clean
how
that
those
up
things
and post
happen, right? And then you're just like, oh, that's out there now for
God,
everyone.
that sucked. Wow.
Yeah.
Clean up and post. It's live.
What do you think, Steve? Should we check the hotline?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. But before we do, if you all have a confession and you would like us to read your confession on air, we would like to share some things that have happened as BAs in your company, check us out on analystsafterdark.com and look at illicit requirements and check it out, fill it out, and we'll read it online. So next we have the hotline. So let's look at the hotline, see what we have going on. I think we have some spicy stuff there.
We do.
Check it out.
Let's see.
Hold on one second.
Let's eavesdrop on the BA hotline and see what provocative project problems are awaiting us. Is your project in hot water? Operators are standing by. Ooh, that's hot.
Oh, Phil.
Meanwhile, I have to tell my wife and son, no, I'm really on a podcast.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. I think my favorite part of that was, so we get to see reactions as that comes on, and you're just hand in your face. That one is perfect. I enjoyed that a lot.
Screenshot was perfect.
I should have screenshotted that. Oh, why didn't I?
It's on YouTube. We can. All right. So we have one from the Velvet Hammer in Minnesota. And I'm a Scrum Master, and I have some ambitious BAs who don't have a very good working relationship with a certain dev. All right, that happens. They write pretty solid user stories and acceptance criteria, the what, but when the dev designs a solution, the how, the BAs constantly disagree that it's the best solution. Short of the BAs dictating the design, what's the best way to find a balance so each role can shine and we have an improved team dynamic?
That's a good one.
Wow.
So in this case, maybe a personality issue, even though the dev's good, then it's a personality issue with the dev is what I'm hearing.
It almost sounds like the question is, who's deciding the best solution? The BAs are trying to say it's just not that. And where's the product owner to step in and say, this works or it doesn't work?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's the BA's job to define the what for sure. Here's what is needed. And that's translating that from the product owner, right? Saying, here's exactly what we need. The how is really up to the development team. And if they come in and say how, and it's not working the way that they want because it's maybe a clicky solution, then that what should be, it needs to have a good user experience. Good user experience is defined as X, Y, Z. So you have 5 criteria for what good means. Clickable within at least number of clicks, or it is loads within 5 seconds, whatever the criteria is for that user experience, that should be maintained by the product owner, in my opinion. And then the BAs kind of carry that out and say, well, it's not a good design because it doesn't meet this criteria.
Yep. And I've actually heard similar response, but the requirements weren't actually met by the developer. And they kept saying, well, that's a lot of clicks, even though the request was defined to be structured walkthroughs because it's a task that's not done very often. The development kept coming back saying, well, that's a lot of clicks. That's a lot of clicks. That's a lot. You're not getting the feedback here. And from both product owner and the BAs saying, number of clicks in this instance was not correct. You're applying it, but we don't want it. We want structured walkthrough providing information and value for something that doesn't happen often. So it kind of the flip side, but similar in that there's disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the response? Who wins that argument?
Well, and I don't think that that's one of the scenarios that you're trying to win and make sure that people are winning. It's setting what the facts are so that the team comes together and say, hey, we have collectively a problem to solve, and it has to be this way to solve it. And even if the developer comes in and has their own ideas around, well, this would be a great new tool, whatever, if it's in the framework and it's in what they can do in their capacity, then I would say, and it abides by what the requirements are, I would say go for that. So maybe even enabling the the developer to say, well, I have the ability to do this. If you have other questions, again, using something like, here's what good UX is, or here's what good design is, or whatever those criteria are, to make sure that the product is working with what the product owner is looking for.
Enough communication to make sure everybody ends up on the same page. And in absence of that, you need someone to be the tiebreaker to say, this is what it needs to be. Whether it's or business, somebody's got to step up and say, taking ownership of this decision, we need to all be in agreement on what the solution ends up being. Okay.
Phil, do you have any thoughts on that?
Only thing I would add is step back and ask the business analyst why they're telling the developer how to do his or her job, because there may be an issue there. It may be that the developer doesn't know, in their opinion anyway, in the BA's opinion, what they're doing. Or they could be wanting to get into the technology. That's why I've been successful with both the BIM role and the project management role, because I don't want to get into the technology. We hire people to do the programming.
Yeah.
And they are much, much more qualified to do that than I ever was. So, I don't want to say just stick in your lane completely, but is there a reason why you don't want to stay in your lane? And if not, then you got to stay in your lane and let the programmer do their job, developer.
But have a discussion about it.
Have a discussion.
Otherwise, the relationship is still going to suck and it's not going to improve.
Exactly.
Don't want that. And we have another. Is it time?
Yeah.
And this one is from Dan the bartender.
I know him.
Dan the bartender. All right. Problem. What is the biggest challenge in BA PM communications? Is it an overall challenge, macro style, or daily operational micro challenge?
Well, can I say first? So Dan's a project manager, and he put BA first versus PMs, and I just got to applaud him for that. Instead of it being PM BA, it was BA PM. So,
alphabetical.
Yep. Wait, hold on. I got a thing for that. Yeah. Good job, Dan.
All right, Phil.
Oh, I said he just did it because they're alphabetical and all project managers want complete order. So BA versus PM.
So you want the hierarchy first.
Yeah. You want to know what I think the biggest challenge is? What I've seen is the curse of knowledge on both ends. So instead of thinking about what I need Steve to know, I want to tell Steve everything I know. And that's not effective communication. I get that all the time. And I think the tech people are worse at it. I hate to slam them from whom I sprung, but it's like Microsoft 365, and they go into infinite levels of detail. And what's it's Yammer, but they're changing the name, whatever that is. The one that's like a lot. All you gotta say is it's like Facebook. and not this will allow you to do this. Yeah. It's Facebook for business. And there's another one it's YouTube for business, right? And I have read pages where people obviously know it inside and out, but it's that curse of knowledge. Just give it to the person in their terms. This is like that. Take them from what they know to the unknown in as easy a way as possible.
Yeah, I think the best scenarios when I've worked with PMs was that we tried to solve the problems together.
Mhm.
You know, there is, and Sabi Warwick does a great session on BAs versus PMs and who's right and who's wrong, and he talks a lot about the overlap between the two skill sets. You know, and there is quite a bit of overlap between what a BA does and can do and what a project manager does and can do. It's who's going to do elements of that or the whole thing, and then how are we going to support each other. If you both tackle it that way, then I've seen those relationships work a lot better and that communication work a lot better. Just of, I know somebody else has my back, and then I've got their back too, and we're able to kind of collaborate that way in a dance or in a, you know, whatever analogy you want to use for that. But it's more of like that give and take, and we have this. You're working as a team versus it's the BA versus the PM. So the BA saying yes to everything, and the PM saying no, we can't because we can't add scope, or the PM's asking for dates, and the BA is like, I don't know, we haven't even talked about it yet, but I need dates. You know, like that conversation. And instead of that going together and saying, well, how do we get dates? Here's some dates that you can put out there that are going to get us where we have these 4 discovery sessions, we have these 4 elicitation sessions. What about you, Steve? When have you worked best with PMs?
Actually, what you just said is very similar to what I was going to say is expectation setting.
Yeah.
If you have consistent expectations that are communicated to everybody and there's reciprocal communication, that's where you're going to have a more cohesive team, because everybody has the same understanding expectation of what's going to be done, when things are done, how. So it flows along as long as everybody's talking enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of that too comes some of the tools that are being used. So Phil, you mentioned some of the tools. You know, I think PMs have the tools that they like to use and that may work. And then BAs have tools that they like to use. And there is some of the conversation that happens back and forth of, well, I like to use this tool and we're going to use Microsoft Project for all this stuff because it does this and this and this and cascades down. It's like, well, that's great. I'm not putting my requirements in Microsoft Project. I'm going to do that in, let's say, Azure DevOps.
Right.
And so then if I'm using DevOps, I don't care what happens to your project plan there because here's where the requirements are. And I've had some conversations with PMs because there's great things that you can do in Azure DevOps. So we say, hey, here's what the timeline looks like for a feature in an epic and things like that, where they have projected start dates, etc. If you want to take those dates and put those in your project plan, now we can communicate together, and then you get notified if those dates change. I can do that within Azure DevOps very easily.
Yep.
Like, those are the kind of things. Those are the kind of things I think add value, where I don't have to maintain this in 2 separate places, or if I do, here's what you need to update because this has changed, and now everybody's in the loop.
Yep. The other curse is email.
I have some thoughts on that. Just stop using it.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I have scheduled meetings with a developer and a BA before to get the two of them to talk because I got so sick and tired of seeing the emails back and forth for days. 15 minutes, we got the thing solved. It's like, did you ever stop and think that maybe the two of you could just sit down and talk?
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah.
We used to, on a project I was on, we had trouble getting response from some of our SMEs. We found out what their coffee schedule was. So we went as a group to go get coffee when we knew there was going to be coffee time for these two SMEs. And we ended up making a regular habit out of it. And, he jokingly referred to us as a pack of velociraptors because one would engage and the others would come around to listen in and
love it.
You clever girl.
That's awesome.
From the movie.
That is awesome.
But that actually helped build the relationship. And it ended up being something that he looked forward to, because it was engagement, not another stupid email or
Yeah.
5 emails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So going back to my friend Hammer Hands, she actually had a really good process for email, and in the subject line it was this was going to it'd be informed of this was a request, and there was a third thing too that I never used, but those two that were very popular. And then now I'm informing you of this, here's the thing that is out there, or I'm requesting something from you and here's what you need to know, right? The good part about using Outlook now is you can just do tags for anybody inside your organization. So you can say at this person, I need this from you, etc.
Boom. Yep.
But I still think email is the wrong tool for that. And I could have a whole session. In fact, I think I kind of do, on what happens with email and things that it's like setting boundaries and such.
And some of that sounds very similar to some tips that Miss Jamie Champagne
Agreed.
has.
Yeah.
That are phenomenal.
Her productivity tips on her website are fantastic.
Yes, indeed. So if you need any kind of help, take a look at Analysts After Dark and check out the BA hotline.
There you go.
Wonderful. So that, unfortunately, means we are wrapping up for the evening. Phil,
yes,
people can buy your book. Great things happen every day.
Yes.
They can listen to you talk about stress management. Like, for instance, you're walking in the woods, a snake bites your leg, and it's trying to eat you from the ankle up. What do you do?
You kick like a mother.
Is that what happened?
I was picking blackberries yesterday, and I was like, doggone it, a vine got wrapped around my leg. And I kicked, and a stick went, and I'm like, but something is still wrapped around my leg, and something is attached to the back of my jeans. And so I kicked about 3 or 4 more times, and it went off. I couldn't tell what kind of snake. I suspect we have one up here called the hognose, which looks venomous. It's not.
Okay.
And I've seen them before. They like to climb up the bushes when you're picking, but if it sees you, it drops down and goes away. And as soon as it hits the floor of the woods, you can't see it, period. But yeah, I had a little bruise on the back of my leg. So when you and I talked about this before, I said, this is a perfect example of why we need stress. This goes back 10,000 years ago, when if you walked out of the cave, a tiger could eat you. You needed to have that fight or flight response. I may have the animals wrong. I was going to say a velociraptor, but I know that's wrong timing wise. But
it depends.
Jurassic
There's a museum
Park
not far from you that actually has both of those.
Yeah. So there you go. But that's an example of why we need stress. Is when a snake is trying to make the last, cut through the levis, you need to take action now. What the problem is when you're constantly under stress. And that's what I have made a lot of efforts to limit the unnecessary stress, not all stress.
Yeah, I like that. And we actually did a article blog recently on that. We talk a little bit about stressors and some of the cortisol levels and what happens to your body when you process cortisol and what it does. So it does kick in your endorphins, and it says, let's go do something. We're going to do something. And it shuts down, normal biological functions. So, it's almost like you are taking something for energy, right? You just had a Four Loko or something, and then you also ate a whole bunch of sugarless gummy bears, and like that thing happened at the same time. So that's what it does to your body. But then
well, it focuses you, right? I was listening to a book. I can't tell you what happened, what that book was about the moment I was dealing with something on my leg. It's everything needs to be shut down and focus on that. That's how those hormones are meant to work.
Yeah. Well, that is possibly my nightmare. One of my biggest nightmares is that exact scenario of just walking in the woods, and all of a sudden it's like a snake just sees you. You know, and we have venomous snakes here. So
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and gators and Florida man, and like it's intense. I try not to leave the house, to be honest.
If the snakes hear you, they go the other direction, which means next time I go out to pick blackberries, I'm going to be going, I'm picking blackberries.
Right. You'll just have little bells on. I want that image of your bell shoes.
No, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these on my shoes, and as I
There
walk.
you go. Wonderful.
It's like the clown squeaky shoes. Perfect. See, I'm convinced a good stress reliever would be a conference room in the office dedicated to post-stressful meeting dodgeball.
Nice.
Stress
They
relief.
had a show like that on. Sorry.
Stress relief exercise and mental break. All in one.
They had a show like that, and it was a reality TV show, and it was called like White Collar Brawlers, and they would have a person that had beef with another person in the office, give them 6 weeks to train, and then they would put them in a boxing ring, and then they would just box each other.
Did they have the giant oversized gloves?
Nope, it was legit boxing gloves, and they got a boxing trainer, and the person was. You see some people just go after it though. They were going in there and they were training like Rocky, as like a Rocky montage, and they were going full bore in the freezing, meat locker or whatever upstairs, doing all of it, and then come in and just wail on their coworkers. I thought like that would be a fun thing, and then I'm like, no, you got to work with that person again, and at some point. Yeah.
That's fun if you're leaving.
Sure.
Right.
Well, and if I'm sitting there going up against Phil and, and do a shot in the hip or something like that, a body shot, it's not going to be like, I know his weaknesses now. I know how to take him out. It's just not fair.
American Gladiators, the puzzle sticks.
Ooh, there we go. That'd be fun.
Do that.
All right.
Oh my.
So Phil, where can people find you? Where are you? What are you doing next? What's going on?
I am at philbarth.com. I'm doing an event in Cincinnati, but that's a private one next month. So the next keynotes will be in Albuquerque at Project Summit Business Analyst World and Boston after that in October.
Wonderful.
But philbarth.com has all the scoop.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. I feel less stressed. I don't know about anybody else.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun. It really has. I knew we were going to have a lot of laughs.
You can't, you can't not with you guys. It's dad jokes galore generally, and it's been fantastic. So thank you so much. Have a great evening, and we'll catch up with you next time, everybody. So check us out on YouTube, so you can subscribe there. You can engage with us on analystsafterdark.com, or you can follow us on LinkedIn. So if you do that, then you get to see all the cool blog posts that we post, and you get, well, that's pretty much all you get. But we get a lot of fun stuff, so we're having fun in the chats. Let's interact and engage. So we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody.